Okay, hello. We are starting a video something. A video vlog. Because we're about to go through something amazing. The McLeans here, Eminem McLean, are about to have our lives changed forever because of our recent news of Matt's cancer journey.
Have we decided what we're going to call it? We're going to call it McLean's Beat Cancer?
That would be pretty cool, inspired by our
Maybe
friend
McLean's
Chris.
Beat Cancer. We'll see.
And so, but we're like, why would we do this? Why would we want to share? And we definitely think it's, we just want to share what we've got going on, what's going to be happening with us, with the world, with anyone that wants to listen, because we're about to go through something super unique. Like, it's just, like traditional medicine meets alternative medicine, meets a force for good of inner awesomeness, and it's got to be documented is how I feel about this. And if it could help anybody, anyone at all, in any sort of your journeys that other people might be going through, then it's worth it for us to record this, and also for posterity too.
So we're excited to go on this journey with everyone. And so I guess we'll start with, we say it started about 3.5 weeks ago, but that's not really true. It's about 4 months ago.
Yeah, like our world exploded 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, our world exploded 3 weeks ago. But about 4 months ago, there was a mass that was growing in my groin. It's actually the technical part of where it is called the perineum. If you want to look that up, you can. But it started growing there, and it was about the size of a quarter. We thought it was like a swollen lymph node. Even the doctors were like, oh, it's probably nothing, just swollen lymph node. Let's put you on an antibiotic. We went on vacation for a few weeks, and during that time, it got a little bigger, got a little painful. When I got back, my doctor said, nope, you need to go get this checked. So I finally got with an oncologist, and because that's where, ended up, someone saying, hey, because of your melanoma history, I had melanoma 21 years ago. On the top of my hand there's a scar still there. They said because of that history, you need to go see an oncologist. So we got with the oncologist, and he said, let's do a CAT scan. So I went and get the CAT scan. And then on September 3rd, the CAT scan came back, and we went into the doctor's office, and that's when our world changed. The doctor looked at it, and he said, I'm 90% certain that this is a malignant tumor, and more than likely it is melanoma, returned after 21 years. Can you imagine? 21 years ago, I had this on the top of my hand. It was removed. They checked my lymph nodes. There was nothing. I was clear. Yeah. So something got through 21 years ago and has been floating around my body waiting for an opportunity to rear its ugly head, and it decided to now, 21 years later. That's got to be pretty uncommon. So we found out that day that it was that, and immediately we made a massive decision I made a massive decision to change my diet. So we had heard about programs before, because
in fact, like 6 years ago, I listened to Chris Beats Cancer, just thinking, because I've just been in the alternative health realm for a long time. And so I thought, this is really cool information. Maybe one day I might use this for somebody. And now here we find ourselves, we're like, oh my gosh, okay, we need to look up Chris Beats Cancer, and we need to get his program, watch his videos. Like, that was kind of like our first line of like, what can we proactively do to not just be observers in this game?
Yeah. So immediately, I am a big meat eater, no longer. Now I've just been on a plant-based diet for the last 3.5 weeks, and it's been raw, actually. Only raw foods for the last 3.5 weeks. I've lost 10 pounds. Actually, no, it's only been 2.5 weeks. And it's been 2.5.
Tomorrow will be 3 weeks.
Oh, has it been 3 weeks?
Yeah.
I've lost like 10 or 12 pounds in that amount of time. Which, hey, we've learned if you want to lose weight really quick, just go on a raw foods diet. All this other stuff, there's all these fancy things out there. Just go on a raw foods diet. It'll come off. We do a lot of juicing. I eat a big salad every day.
Yeah, that'll be something that we'll document a lot more. Is the food that he's eating, and like how we're outfitting our kitchen, and how we're going from like, I don't know, just not traditional American diet. We've never ate super
Yeah,
crappy.
we've never been. Yeah,
Not really.
we've
at all,
always
but-
focused on health.
But like to how to like really amp it up. So
Yeah.
we're gonna go through lots of that in this space as well.
That's right. That's right.
So diet shift happens September 3rd. And then 1 week later, we sit down and we meet with a surgeon to talk about surgery.
Yeah, this was interesting.
Because we were like, well, okay, what's the next step?
We'll just get this mass out,
Let's just
and we'll just have it immediately biopsied in the operating room, and they can decide what it is.
well, and remember, the doctor was like, okay, it's growing so fast, we don't necessarily have time to biopsy it. So we should just get it out because
That was the initial. That was the initial response. You know, that was the initial. That's changed since then, and part of the reason that changed is because we're sitting there, and I've got my legs spread wide open in front of this doctor, you know, and he's looking at there, and he's looking down, and he says, "Well, I'm just trying to figure out once we do this, of how to get you all back together." And when he said that, we kind of went, "Whoa!"
wait, what? What are you talking about? Like,
So-
this is gonna be
I left
Bigger than
the
we
surgeon's office. We planned the procedure. I left the surgeon's office and immediately went to my doctor because the surgeon wanted to do a 2-step process. He just wanted to do an excision biopsy, take out the middle of it, and then get that biopsied. And I was thinking, what's the point of that if we don't get everything out, right? Because when you have a malignant mass, you get to something that is called clean margins. Okay, and I was thinking, well, if that's what we need to do, why don't we just get that all done all at once? So I was a little confused. Rushed over to the doctor, thanks to my brother York, who kind of coerced me into, hey, if you're not comfortable with something, go talk to your doctor. So ran over to my doctor, said, can I spend 5 minutes with you? And he agreed that a 2-step process wasn't worth it, that we should at that point just do a needle biopsy. So we do the needle biopsy.
yeah, we decide we're going to do the needle biopsy and not surgery.
That's right.
And we felt really good about that.
We
Although,
did.
you know, it's just like, this is the name of the game. If you're in this arena, is the back and forth, like kind of this torture of like, am I really doing the right thing?
Yeah, because the doctors
time-
don't really tell you what to do. They give you multiple options, and then they make you decide, and you're like, I don't know.
Well, and then you also feel like time is against you.
Yes,
because
this thing is growing.
fast.
It's now about the size of a
and
golf ball.
People
Right.
And what happens too is we have lots of loving friends and family that have gone through other things, and so we're getting information from people, and they're like, you know, you got to get this out. And so then we're like, oh, what do we do? But eventually we're like, no, we feel good about just biopsying it so we can see what we're dealing with.
That's right.
'Cause I'm
Then,
like,
then everyone gets
It's
clarity.
probably not cancer.
That's right. That's what we're thinking. It's probably
It's
not
probably
cancer. It's
not.
probably some weird thing. And
Like the surgeon, my favorite comment was his, is like, maybe it's just a pissed off lymph node. And I'm like, yeah.
yes. Well, the surgeon.
I like that
so
idea.
when we had the surgery on September 15th,
Yeah,
on
he
Wednesday,
goes in.
he goes in and comes out to me, calls Mindy afterwards. I'm still in recovery, and he calls her, and he says, this doesn't look like melanoma, because it didn't have it. And so we were all excited. Then we got clarity from him later that it was because it didn't have any black specks in it, and usually melanoma is black and has at least specks of black in it. And then I reminded my surgeon that 21 years ago, the melanoma on my hand was white. It's called non-pigmented melanoma, which is only about 2 to 6% of all melanoma cases. And when I told him that, he goes, yeah, that's good to know. And so, but we were still hopeful, right? He said it didn't look like melanoma. We were still hopeful that, you know, how would I get a white melanoma 21 years later? You know, we didn't think it was related. And then, so we're waiting, takes them a long time to do the biopsy.
Waiting's the worst game. It's the worst game.
Yeah,
It's
the pathologist reaches out to the doctor, to the surgeon, and says, hey, we're going to have to do some additional stains to figure out what this is. And we're like, hey, man, if this was melanoma, they would have known already, right? So if this isn't melanoma, we're good. Then Tuesday at 4:55 p.m., I go to sit on the toilet, and I'm looking at my phone like a lot of us do on our toilets, and there's a text from my doctor. I get a text from my doctor. Now, I want to say that we actually love our doctor.
We like our doctor.
We like our doctor. He's super
But
nice.
seriously, it's like when teenage boys text girls to go on a date,
Yeah,
and
don't-
you're like, don't do that.
That's
Nobody
right.
does that. So, like, I'm going to add, like, also when you're, like, an oncologist and you text people that they have melanoma cancer that'll change their life forever, don't text that.
Yeah. The pathologist report came back, it's melanoma. When would you like to meet to discuss your options? That was the text.
I'm so mad. Okay, like my first response was just like, actually really mad that he texted us this information. I'm like, it's a mistake.
Yeah.
What? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Usually
Usually I'm the one.
sad.
Usually I'm the one that gets really upset about those kinds of things. This time I was the one telling Mindy, "Let's not get upset about that. I have melanoma." It came in a text. It came in a phone call. A phone call would have been nicer.
It's like I just didn't want to believe it. Though.
Yeah, we didn't want to believe it. So
It was
I immediately went upstairs after getting off the throne. Told Mindy. Then we sat together and cried for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we came downstairs and told the kids. And they were troopers. Kids have been amazing. Kids are really resilient. Kids, they may not fully grasp the gravity of the possible situation, but they are pretty amazing at the way they can handle things. And so they've been a great support. So that was Tuesday, and that felt like a week ago. It literally felt like that was a week ago, and it was just 2 days ago.
Thursday.
Yeah,
And it felt so
it
long
felt like
ago.
a week ago. So the next day, and we'll talk about, I'm going to do some other video blogs, maybe of just me or maybe of both of us. We're probably going to switch back and forth and maybe do it together sometimes. I'm going to talk about some other things that happened that evening in a separate video. But the next day, we scheduled with the doctor at 1:00 to go see him. And I'm terrified at this point. I'm full of fear, which is the one thing I'm really trying to avoid in all this. Really trying to become hopeful and not fearful. I don't want to drift into despair. But I was pretty scared at this point that I was going to sit down with this doctor and he was going to tell me you have stage 4 melanoma, because he hadn't told us the stage yet.
Yeah.
But it's so big, it's growing inside my body, not out. Pretty sure it's stage 4 melanoma. And that we're going to come up with some treatments that can extend your life as long as possible, but this is a death sentence. That's what I was thinking the conversation was going to be.
Yeah.
So I was scared.
Hard.
It was hard. And so we went in and had a very, very different conversation. You know, modern science is an amazing thing. And in the last 10 years, they have come out with immunotherapy for melanoma that really only works for melanoma cancer, and it works amazingly well for melanoma. So whereas 10 years ago, stage 4 melanoma was a death sentence, now it's not at all. He showed us the statistics of the long-term, the 5 and 6 and 7 year survival rates of people doing these treatments on immunotherapy. And then you partner that with what we're doing also with the Gerson Clinic and with the method and with my diet and our lifestyle changes and with, you know, my amazing partners at work who are my brother and my dad, who are giving me all the time that I need to rest and to not be stressed, so that I don't have cortisol, straining through my body, because I've had a lot of stress the last few years. That is probably a primary source that pulled this trigger, was probably my stress of the last few years. And I have a very supporting family that are going to support me at the office. You know, between all of that, we're going on a very unique journey of support and love and diet change and modern science, amazing modern science.
So, yeah, what's so cool is from that, we realized that immunotherapy, it was the way to go for Matt, to shrink the tumor, to not go in there and have surgery.
In fact, there's a good chance that the tumor will just disappear. And not only that,
that's the plan.
More than likely it's, it's stage 4, so more than likely I have cancer cells swimming through my body somewhere. And if it shrinks and kills that tumor, that means it's also killed all those other little things floating around in my body. So immunotherapy is not a palliative therapy. It is a curative therapy. That
so we left
we can be
feeling
cured.
Super hopeful.
Oh, gosh, it's
like,
just, we felt
okay.
so hopeful.
He's like, okay, every 3 weeks you're gonna just come into the office and get an infusion, and there's, there could be some side effects, but like, you can beat this. Like, we can beat this. And we're like, okay, like maybe we can. And then we're like driving home, and I've been doing research.
Unbeknownst to me, Mindy reaches out.
I know. So I'm like in the car, and I'm like, okay, immunotherapy. That sounds amazing. But we could also add in alternative things too, right? Because like so many alternative medicines and therapies can be used simultaneously with our traditional routes. And so I'm like emailing somebody from the Gerson Clinic that is in
Gerson.
Gerson. I keep doing that.
Gerson.
Gerson, Gerson.
Yeah.
Gerson Clinic in Mexico, in like Baja, Mexico area. And I'm like, do you treat somebody that's also doing immunotherapy at the same time? And when could you get us in? And how much does this cost? Right? So like sent that email off, and literally within a couple hours,
I still didn't even know that she had done this.
a couple hours later, I get a call, or I miss a call, and I listen to the message, and I'm like, oh, God, somebody from the Gerson Clinic just called us. Like, actually, the director, the owner, just called us, and like, he wants to talk to us because I emailed him. And so we like get him. That's like, okay, let's just get him on the phone.
Information begets inspiration. I have no idea what's going on at this point.
And so we just like talk with him. He seems like a really impressive individual. We're super excited about it, and we're like getting all this information. He's like actually doing immunotherapy with the Gerson method is actually brilliant and could be potentially life-saving. Absolutely, it can be life-saving.
Yeah, and it was really interesting because I mean, a lot of people in these therapies, they see so many success stories in their alternative therapies that, in some ways, they can become kind of anti, chemotherapy and anti-radiation, and immunotherapy is very different. His language about immunotherapy was very positive. But what he said is that the problem with the immunotherapy is that eventually it stops working, and then they got to put you on a new immunotherapy and a different immunotherapy. So hopefully new ones are coming out that still will respond well with you genetically, so that you can kind of continue on that. And that becomes that journey of immunotherapy, which for some people could be a lifelong thing. I don't think that's going to be my situation, but it could be. And so he said what Gerson can do for us is extend those time periods for each therapy to where my immune system doesn't get so beat down or overstimulated to where it can handle those therapies for longer.
We'll have to talk more about that later in other videos.
Yeah, we will.
Like
we'll talk about
details.
We'll get more details.
It's really fascinating.
It is. It's fascinating and exciting. And so, he seemed really excited to want to document how I do with immunotherapy and the Gerson method. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, is because I think we're doing something kind of unique.
Totally.
So we want to document this.
Traditional method meets alternative method.
And we're going to marry those, right?
2021.
Yeah.
With melanoma stage 4.
Melanoma stage 4 cancer, which 10 years ago I would have just been a dead man, right? And now there's so much hope. Or at the very least, I would have ended up only being able to rely on Gerson and Crispy cancer, and there's a good chance I could have killed it with that. Sure. But I would have been left with just that. And melanoma is such an aggressive, growing, cancer that, it can become difficult for even natural remedies to only work. We've heard success stories.
Yeah.
But now we feel like we get to have this partnership. So we're going to keep you posted on that. I think I'll do a separate video blog about immunotherapy separately. What I'm excited about with it, what I'm concerned about, what my kind of fears are.
But like today, we bought our tickets to go to the clinic
for 3 weeks. We're going to get pampered.
Very excited.
At the Gerson Center, and we're really
gonna be sad to leave our kids and sad to leave our life here for just a minute, but it's just for a minute to learn it, and we are gonna document all of it. Like, you guys are gonna come with us on this awesome journey to Mexico and immunotherapy.
Yeah. Now I'm assuming that this is going to be our first and longest video, so we're gonna make them a lot shorter going forward. This was kind of long.
20 minutes.
So we don't need you to be having to take 20 minutes every time we want to do an update. But 2, 3, 4 minutes here and there. Come check us out. We don't know exactly how we're going to post these or what we're going to do, whether it's going to be through Facebook or whether we're going to actually use video blog or just use YouTube. I don't know. We don't really have. I don't really have the technology figured out yet. But we're going to share these, and we're looking forward for each of you to be in this journey with us. Please comment and share your thoughts. If you have any counsel, we are always open ears and open eyes on anything and everything. I had a friend that called me today talking about a salve that can really kill tumors possibly, and I'm open to it. So if you have any comments or thoughts, please share, and we look forward to doing this with you.
Here we go.
Thanks everyone. We're going to batten down the hatches and pull up the boots and move forward. We love y'all.
Love ya.
Bye bye.